Hello, thank you for tuning in to the Katie Sassine Show. I'm your host, Katie Sassine. Was just checking to make sure the lapel was in the correct spot here. Now, tomorrow is the 100th episode of the Katie Sassine Show, so I have a special surprise for everyone. Tomorrow's episode, the 100th episode, is going to be something and somewhere different. So stay tuned in, and you will see. Now, today we're going to talk about Home Sweet Home, Georgia, because we've given a lot of love to talking about the federal government. Now it's time to talk about our state and what's going on down here. So, the 6th Congressional District. The 6th Congressional District, we have Jon Ossoff, the poster child for the Democratic Party right now in Georgia. He's just like Mr. Perfect apparently now. I mean, but he's got that reputation. He's charming, he's eloquent, running against Karen Handel, a 55-year-old woman running against a 30-year-old young male. And to me, it's a no-brainer. To me, Karen Handel has this election in the bag. Now, recently, however, voting registration has been extended, and this has been seen as beneficial for Democrats. We got a video we're going to show y'all in just a second. And up to you. Do you think this is beneficial for Democrats? Karen Handel certainly has something to say about it. Let's check it out.
Karen Handel, the Republican candidate fighting for a House seat in Georgia, is blasting a federal judge's decision to reopen voter registration before the June runoff. Handel, who is running against Democrat Jon Ossoff, called the judge's decision partisan. In a letter to supporters, she says, quote, "Just a warning, this is going to boil your blood." Just hours ago, the Democrats won their lawsuit to extend voter registration in Georgia before our election. Handel and Ossoff are in a runoff for Georgia's 6th Congressional District. Many are looking at the race to determine if the anti-Trump political energy will translate to the polls. The judge agreed to extend the voter registration deadline, siding with civil rights advocacy groups who argue that Georgia violated federal law by preventing more new voter registrations. A special election will fill the House seat vacated by Tom Price, who went on to become Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary. The election is set for June 20th. A peaceful
Welcome back. Now, as you can see, the Democrats won a lawsuit to extend voter registration. Karen Handel said this will make your blood boil. They won, and this gives Democrats more opportunity to register to vote and vote for Ossoff because they're trying to flip the 6th. And with the media's help, they are actually convincing enough people to where he has a chance. Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, is the latest big name to get involved in the 6th District congressional race. He headlined an event on May 15th with Karen Handel. And before the event, it was very private. There are no details about the event released. So who will win? Well, my guess, of course, and my hope is Karen Handel, because this is a traditionally Republican district. Conservative means conserve the tradition, conserve our values, conserve our Constitution. So, I hope for Karen Handel. I hope to hashtag remain Republican. Karen Handel, she is the best candidate for the job. She has much more experience than Jon Ossoff. She has been rumored as seeking out opportunities and being a career politician, but you know what? At least she's been involved, and even more importantly, she's conservative. So President Donald Trump won Georgia's 6th District by a margin of 1.5% in 2016. Now he won, but that's not a very extensive margin. It's a very small margin. But because of the history of the district, of the 6th District, and those that have gone on to D.C., Tom Price, Gingrich, after having the 6th District, it's hard to imagine a Democrat taking that seat and the people actually being happy about it. I mean, these are people, Sandy Springs, Johns Creek, a very affluent district of Georgia. They are likely to be more conservative than liberal. However, because it's close to the inner city, we have a mix of population there. So you could say it's a toss-up. I mean, I personally don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because even with the 1.5% margin in the presidential election, there were only 5 Democratic candidates in the race, in the initial race of a total of an insane amount of candidates. Was it 18? Yes, 18 candidates and 11 Republican candidates. Now, what makes me think is that Karen Handel has it in the bag is that I think Republican voters are more informed, and it shows by the way that they voted. And that tells me that the Republican voters care more about this election than the Democratic voters. Ossoff monopolized the Democratic side of the district. He got 49% of the Democratic votes. That screams corruption. How do you win 49% of approximately 50% of the people that voted for Democratic candidates? That is super corrupt. On the other hand, we had 11 Republican candidates, and the votes were actually more evenly distributed. Believe it or not, we had more candidates, and the votes were more distributed. That tells me that Republican voters in that district care about this election a lot more than Democratic voters, and that they will secure the district and it will remain Republican. Because we're dealing with Democratic voters that have been swayed, that have been blinded by the light, and they've been swayed by media, versus already politically involved Republicans who aren't as swayed by the media. Yes, Karen Handel did have more political endorsements than opposing candidates, but she didn't have the most. Judson Hill was endorsed by Newt Gingrich. I thought he had it in the bag. Bob Gray was the MAGA candidate. I thought he had it in the bag. Karen Handel surprised me, and I'm very impressed. And I think she'll surprise us again. So, what is it about Ossoff that turns people off? What is it about Ossoff that more and more people are starting to find out that they didn't know when they first saw his advertisements? Well, progressive special interest groups and Democrat Party bosses, quote unquote, are spending big money to support Ossoff's campaign. Most of this money is coming from out of state, from California, and they want to install, like a TV set, another Democrat that will vote in lockstep with Washington liberals. They think and know he will go on to be in D.C. himself and be a part of the federal government one day. Ossoff, although he is, but you know, locked in D.C., Ossoff explicitly overstated policy experience. He mischaracterized, quoting, the amount of time he had a security clearance while working on national security policy. One time he accidentally said 5 years instead of 5 months. Ossoff does not even live in the 6th district, in the district that he's running to represent, which should be against the rules, but somehow I guess it's not. So let's put it this way. He raised $8 million in a few months, and most of this money was from out of state. Most of this money is from people that aren't voting in the district. He doesn't even live in the district. And what's sad is that a lot of these people had no idea. When BKP and I went to the Democratic Forum for the 6th Congressional District race a few months ago, we noticed right off the bat that forum was designed for Jon Ossoff. That forum was put together for him. And those other Democratic candidates were there just hoping that maybe the people would actually research them and vote for them because of their merit and not because of their money. But they didn't. The Democratic candidates, the Democratic voters, voted for Jon Ossoff because of his money. And you know, the really crazy part about it is that he preaches that he's a grassroots politician. He's for the grassroots. He's for the people. He's for the little man. But all of his money and all of his support is coming from the top. It's coming from the big man. It's coming from out of state. This isn't grassroots. This is corruption. This is the swamp. This is a swamp. We've got enough swamps in Georgia. We don't need him creating one. Now, he's only 30 years old. He's charming. He's eloquent. He shook my hand and held on to it and looked me in the eye. And I thought he was going to ask me on a date. He didn't. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of bothered, but, you know, only because I, just wanted to see if I could, maybe get him out of the race or trick him in some way, maybe, like play a secret agent or something like that. So it's not like I had a crush on him or anything, okay? We don't even have the same beliefs, all right? There's been speculation that he is, but I could tell he liked me. There's been speculation that he has exaggerated his experience, like we just said. Claimed by many, including John Bolton, ambassador to the United Nations under President George W. Bush. Bolton said Ossoff is deceiving many Georgians. He said that to the AJC on April 6, 2017. He has been questioned by many for misrepresenting his receiving money from the DNC, out-of-state money, living outside of the 6th. Meanwhile, he was always praising, like I said, grassroots organizations to flip the 6th. And what they're really doing is they're just listening to what the commercials tell them. They're listening to what the media wants them to do, funded by the DNC, funded by people out of state, funded by people that have nothing to do with grassroots organizations in the U.S. This is such a parallel to the paid protesting by George Soros. I have a question for Jon Ossoff. How did you raise so much money in such little time? From the grassroots? No. From aliens? No. From the Democratic National Committee, right? From the top down. This isn't from the grassroots organizations. If you want to be a candidate and be a corrupt candidate, at least own it. I mean, don't outright lie and say that you're a grassroots candidate. I mean, he outright lied, and people just believe it. I mean, are people too lazy to research? All you can do is watch a commercial and believe what it says? I mean, you have to research. Ossoff worked as a congressional staffer for 5 years. PolitiFact confirmed that, but he only had security clearance for about 5 months. Now, I think those facts were twisted, and that caused a lot of speculation of Ossoff, but nonetheless, he still monopolized the Democratic vote. And there were so many other wonderful candidates. Dr. Rebecca Quigg and Reagan Edwards. She was great. She's excellent. Single mother. She is, she's fantastic. She was not, none of these other candidates, Slotin and who am I missing? Keaton. These were all real people with far more life and professional political experience than Jon Ossoff. And somehow, because he's charming and eloquent and repeats the same things over and over and over again, he took the election. It's really sad. Karen Handel is a former Secretary of State of Georgia, a member of the Republican Party, and she worked in business before entering politics. All great things, all incomparable qualifications. Well, Jon Ossoff's qualifications are incomparable to that of Karen Handel's. Hers exceed his expectations far more. I mean, hers exceed the expectations and what we expect from a candidate. Jon Ossoff, I think he's too young. He's only 30 years old. He can be molded. He's so susceptible to being molded. He's not, and not in a negative way, he's not stuck in his ways yet. And I'm young, but I have my own show, and I'm not funded $8 million by any particular party. So, I mean, I guess it's hard to judge him for just being young alone. I suppose it's just the fact that, he's had such an unfair advantage in funding that it just screams corruption to me, and I'm just so shocked that the people just buy into it so easily. So, how badly did he monopolize the election? He got 48.1% of the votes, compared to Karen Handel that got 19% of the Republican voters of about 50%. Now, how are we doing on time right now? Okay, we are going to break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about prisoners in North Korea and which Korean American was arrested by North Korean authorities a couple Saturdays ago. We'll be right back with you on the Katie Sassine Show.
Ace is your helpful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
El Rey and Elijah.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Elijah.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Circuit World, brand name merchandise at unbelievably low prices. Furniture, appliances, and electronics. Circuit World is locally owned and operated, serving the tri-state area. Circuit World has highly trained professionals to help. Visit your hometown Circuit World today. 3 locations in Georgia: Ellijay, Blue Ridge, and Blairsville, Franklin, and Murphy, North Carolina. No credit checks, so let Circuit World deliver to you today.
Welcome back to the Katie Sassine Show. I'm your host, Katie Sassine. We left off talking about the 6th Congressional District race. The vote will take place on June 20th, the final vote, and registration for voters has been extended, and this is seen to be to the advantage of Democratic voters as they are trying to flip this district all of a sudden with, as I like to say, poster child Jon Ossoff, because that's the best possible description I have for how this man ties into the Democratic Party, and more so how he was bought to represent the Democratic Party. Now, maybe he is truly a liberal, and he truly believes what he says, and that's totally possible, and that's all good for him, and that's great. But the fact of the matter is he says he's a candidate for the grassroots. He says that this movement in the 6th District is a natural movement, when in fact, it's exactly the opposite. He's received $8 million to secure the votes that he's gotten today. Anyway, moving on to more corruption on the other side of the world, in North Korea, in the DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It's anything but a republic. It's anything but democratic. but yet that's its official name. If you go on CIA.gov and you check it out, it's interesting. So the DPRK. Now recently, an American was held prisoner in North Korea just last week. Mr. Kim Hak-song, a Korean American, he taught at the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. He was arrested by North Korean authorities last Saturday for unspecified hostile acts. The reasons are unknown. Now, we're going to check out a video of highlighting a couple of detainees released in 2014, and you will see in just a minute. Very interesting. One of the guys looks very somber, and it looks like he's been through some crazy stuff. Let's check it out.
2 American detainees have been released by the North Korean government. Kenneth Bae and Matthew Todd Miller were allowed to leave the country Saturday, just weeks after another American detainee, Jeffrey Fowle, was released.
I didn't realize I was getting released until the half an hour before we took off. It was just suddenly, hit like a ton of bricks.
They were the last known Americans being detained by the communist nation. Bae and Miller's release follows a rare diplomatic trip by U.S. Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper.
Well, I think it's a wonderful day for them and their families. I appreciate Director Clapper doing a great job on what was obviously a challenging mission.
North Korea initiated the trip, contacting the U.S. government and urging them to send a cabinet-level official to Pyongyang to discuss the detainees. Clapper's office says the U.S. government is facilitating the men's return home, but it's not clear when exactly they'll arrive in the U.S. According to a State Department official, there was no quid pro quo for the men's release. Former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Bill Richardson believes the move is a sign Kim Jong-un may be changing tactics in dealing with the U.S.
Decisions like this are made at the highest level, and if it was without any conditions, as it appears to be, he's signaling to the U.S., hey, maybe we should start talking, and that's good.
Bae had been held in North Korea since 2012. In April 2013, he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor for hostile acts against the North Korean government. Miller had been detained since April. According to state-run Korean Central News Agency, he was also convicted of acts hostile to North Korea and sentenced to 6 years hard labor. I'm Mary Maloney.
Wow, that's depressing. Very, very sad stuff here when you're not taken, because a lot of these people went into North Korea willingly. But when you are kept prisoner, I can't even imagine. And to us in America, the reasons for being held prisoner in North Korea seem like a thing of the past. It doesn't seem realistic, but this is what goes on. These are people just like you and me, Americans, or maybe you're Asian American or African American or etc., whatever, wherever you're from. If you're familiar with American society and something like that happens to you, I can't imagine how it changes your life from there on out. And there are plenty of interviews you can check out of these people that have been released. Since 1996, we have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 Americans that have been detained in North Korea. At first, the reasoning for the first 4 was illegal, or first 5 was illegal entry into North Korea. And then the 6th, Eddie Young-soo Jun, was detained in 2010 for 208 days because he committed a crime against North Korea. In 2012, Kenneth Bae was detained for unauthorized religious activity. In 2013, Merrill Newman was detained for issues related to his service in the Korean War. In 2014, Matthew Miller, that we just saw in the video, was detained for 212 days for acts hostile to DPRK while entering under the guise of a tourist. He had traveled to North Korea intending to get arrested. Interesting. Yeah, he is the one strange case in my opinion. He was the guy on the right. He looks very young, the guy on the right of the video that we saw. And we had Jeffrey Fowle, that we'll discuss later, who was in detention for 170 days, acting contrary to the purpose of tourism, by leaving a Bible at a nightclub. He was also reportedly there to spread the word of the gospel and I guess try to save people that are literally trapped and unable to be free in their own home. So Arturo Pierre Martinez, another American, was in detention for an unknown amount of days for illegally entering Korea. We had Sandra Sue, the only woman on the list. No, only one of 3 women on the list. And she was not held in detention at all. She was detained and released the very same day for harming the dignity of the supreme leadership, trying to use religion to destroy the North Korean system. As you know, or may not know, the North Korean system is based on a dynasty. It is not only a dynasty, but it is a divine right to be the supreme leader of North Korea. Kim Jong-un, son of Kim Il-sung, inherited power from his father, who inherited power from their predecessor that was whose name I don't have in front of me, but he was granted authority as supreme leader of North Korea by God. This is what the North Koreans are told. This is what he believes. This is what Kim Jong-un believes. This is what Kim Il-sung believed, of course, as his dad, as Kim Jong-un's father. So it's a system that the people are afraid to go against, because if they do, they're acting against God. And I don't know if most Koreans, but it's reported that many Koreans, they believe it and they're all for it because they have been indoctrinated to believe that is so, and that is fact. So, on to Jeffrey Fowle. He was 58 when he traveled to the secretive dictatorship in 2014. In interviews, Fowle stresses that, unlike Americans held before and after him, he was not placed in a brutal work camp. But in his quarters, he was isolated and monitored constantly. He was given a pen and paper and coached on his statement of guilt and coerced to write confessions over and over again without stopping, like the Simpsons, like Bart Simpson, who had to rewrite the punishment or whatever on the chalkboard. So, in addition to the people that have been detained in the past and released, of the almost 20-some people that are reported to have been detained, only 4 U.S. citizens, including Kim Hak-song, that was just recently detained the other week for unknown reasons. There is 21-year-old college student Otto Warmbier, accounting professor Kim Song-duk, and businessman Kim Dong-chul. And then, of course, Kim Hak-song worked at Pyongyang University. So, hopefully we can work toward getting these prisoners back into the United States, where they are free and they have freedom of religion and freedom of expression, beliefs I hold dear that we take for granted often, that I'm able to take advantage of on this show, on the Katie Sassine Show, which is one thing I love about it. So, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning on the Katie Sassine Show at 10 a.m. for the special 100th episode. Make sure you tune in. Don't miss it. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at KatieFYNTV, and email me with comments, suggestions, whatever, at katie@fetchyournews.com. And remember to follow us at Fetch Your News on YouTube. And we'll see you here same time, same place tomorrow.